I do not get the sense the deal is done. Will that lead to a deal before free agency? I don't know. Sometimes guys like to see what's out there. It does seem a deal is at least possible or within reach.
With the new league year around the corner and L'Jarius Sneed most likely getting traded, the biggest remaining question is, can the Chiefs really get a deal done with Chris Jones in the next few days, or will he be testing the market? And in this video, I'm going to be looking at the worst case possibility of why he could indeed end up testing the market, which obviously would be way less than ideal. We got to talk about that, as well as Drue Tranquill getting re-signed, Sneed potentially being worth a first-round pick, Travis's emotional thoughts on his brother's retirement, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? First up, cornerback Jaylen Watson announced he had successful shoulder surgery this week, getting his labrum repaired that he said got injured in week 2 of the regular season. He was then given the option to get surgery, which would have put him out for the rest of the season, or try to play through the remainder of it in pain. Well, he chose pain, fighting through it, saying there was a lot of pain and discomfort, but it was worth every moment because he's now a 2-time Super Bowl champion. I've personally been through 2 shoulder surgeries on my left shoulder, needing the labrum repaired both times, and let me tell you, it hurts like hell. So the fact that he only missed week 4 of the regular season and then played through the rest of them all the way through the Super Bowl tells you he is an absolute dog. He will be someone to watch out for, though, as far as progress is concerned, because this recovery could take roughly 6 months or more, which means Jaylen Watson may not quite be 100% good to go by the start of the regular season. And then, did you guys know that Johnny Manziel was potentially going to be signed by the Chiefs the year they drafted Patrick Mahomes?
I thought I was going to sign in Kansas City the same year that Mahomes got drafted.
That's right. Manziel, the former first-round pick of the Browns in the 2014 NFL Draft, had a couple of visits with the Chiefs before the 2017 NFL Draft, and Andy Reid, a coach well known for giving players second chances, may have been willing to bring him in depending on how the draft went.
He saw something in me as well, so I took a couple meetings there and flew up to Kansas City and kicked the tires on it, and it ended up not working out.
Well, thank God it didn't work out, because I have no idea what the Chiefs would have looked like post Alex Smith with Manziel at the helm rather than Patrick Mahomes. And speaking of crazy things to hear about, Skip is a dipstick. Bayless recently had a segment that, per usual, was comedy gold, and while I normally just straight up ignore his foolishness, this take was too funny to pass up.
I still believe with all my heart and soul that Joe Burrow is better than Patrick Mahomes. Maybe just a little better, but just better than Patrick Mahomes, and I can back it up and I can prove it.
How is this geriatric, irrelevant man still sticking to this horrible take?
I'm an idiot!
One of my favorite parts of this segment was when Mahomes does anything well. It's not a credit to him, but a knock on the opponent instead.
And Mahomes was really good late in that game because the 49ers weren't.
I watched this entire segment, by the way, waiting for the proof that never came, because it doesn't exist. Just like Bigfoot, the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, the moon being a Russian satellite, etc., etc. And even though draft prospect Tyler Owens doesn't believe in space.
No, I don't believe in space. I don't think there's other planets and stuff like that. I started seeing flat Earth stuff. I'm like,
there's actually more proof that this man, Tyler Owens, could be correct than Skip Bayless is about Burrow being better than Mahomes. Want to know how I know? Here's the proof: a trophy shelf full of nothingness. Meanwhile, Mahomes' shelf is overflowing. This man has won more playoff games since 2018 than the Bengals' entire franchise has since their inception in 1968. And with that, there's really nothing left to be said. So onwards from this clown, we must go to a much more emotional subject: the retirement of the legend Jason Kelce. By now, most of you have probably heard Jason's retirement speech in full, or at least are well aware that he's hanging up the cleats after 13 years in the league. Well, his brother Travis got to speak some of his own thoughts about it all on their recent podcast, and it was about as emotional as you would expect it to be.
To have you out of it, man, it feels empty, and it definitely it was a fun ass journey to watch. And like I said yesterday, man, I just appreciate you showing me the way and bringing us all along the journey with you, big guy.
We showed each other the way.
I could have been more proud listening to you yesterday.
There's more to what Travis had to say in this, so make sure to check out their full episode when you get the chance. I just appreciated seeing Travis be so transparent about his older brother, as Jason has done a ton for him over the years, including helping him get back on the football team in college after Travis got suspended for a year for smoking weed. Yeah, Stupid, I know, but then Jason also vouched for Travis to Andy Reid on the day that Travis got drafted by the Chiefs, so Travis is definitely grateful for his big brother, to say the least. Next up, Dianna Russini recently spoke about L'Jarius Sneed on the Athletic Football Show, and she not only seems pretty confident he's getting traded, but noted that a team could potentially give up a first-round pick to ensure they get him because of how many teams are interested.
Yeah, I do think that he winds up getting traded, and I think the fact that we're seeing several teams already showing interest, and this is just based on the conversations I've been having over the last few days.
Do you have any sense of that? Like what a team would have to give up to get him?
A first, for sure.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That was shared. I was told, though, from a source that's like in part of all this, that this is going to take more time than we expect. Like this isn't going to happen in the next few days.
And she thinks a trade for Sneed won't finalize until maybe the week after next, once the dust settles from the first crazy wave of free agency. And whether or not the Chiefs get a first-round pick for Sneed, it's still interesting to hear they potentially could. I mean, he is one of the youngest corners available this free agency and certainly one of the best. The next question is, if he does get traded, how much will this man be getting paid? Well, the Bears just extended their cornerback, Jaylen Johnson, to a 4-year, $76 million deal, which is an average of $19 million per year. He is only 24 as well, so 3 years younger than Sneed, but you could argue Sneed is more well-rounded, even though they both were great last season. So, will Sneed get paid more than that average of $19 million a year? Many sure think he will, and again, if that's the case, that's why the Chiefs are probably out on him, because priority number one is having the money available to get a deal done with Chris Jones. More on him in a moment, though, because this next update makes things a bit more complicated for the Chiefs to be able to get a deal done with him until they clear more cap space. And that update is, late last night, the Chiefs made a surprising move, signing linebacker Drue Tranquill to a 3-year, $19 million deal with $13 million guaranteed, an average of $6.3 million a year. And I'm not surprised that Drue Tranquill got signed. I was very hopeful he would, but just surprised that this news was announced before a Chris Jones deal was. Having Tranquill back is obviously great news, as both he and Willie Gay were set to hit free agency. That does unfortunately mean, though, the Chiefs are about 99% likely to move on from Willie Gay Jr., and he tweeted out as much after the wildcard game against the Dolphins, saying it's looking like he's probably played his last game in Arrowhead, meaning he probably knew the Chiefs were going in a different direction, or at least had that feeling from his representation, and I'm definitely going to miss the guy. So Drue Tranquill is officially back, and I had a feeling they would, or at least was extremely hopeful, even responding to Drue Tranquill's Instagram story a couple days ago saying, "More years with KC are incoming, so
I'm from the future."
Okay, probably not. But after the Tranquill news got announced, Justin Reid made sure to let everybody know he loved it, as did Drue Tranquill himself, who tweeted out, "Unfinished business. Chiefs Kingdom, let's go!" And if you were wondering what the unfinished business is, it's helping KC get that 3-peat. Anyway, this is a great signing for several reasons. He's a very solid coverage linebacker who didn't allow a touchdown in coverage this season. He can play all three linebacker positions and showed how sharp his cranium is last season when Nick Bolton went down due to injuries more than once, and Tranquill stepped in without the defense having to skip a beat. This was Drue's first year in Spags' system, and Steve Spagnuolo said himself when Drue Tranquill filled in for Nick, the defense didn't miss a beat. There was no simplification of schemes or play calling whatsoever, which is pretty freaking impressive. One thing a lot of us were hoping to see more of last year was both Nick Bolton and Drue Tranquill out there on the field together at the same time. We didn't really get to see that much, but are in for a treat next season because the Chiefs made it clear this is their guy, so we'll see them plenty out there together in 2024. And right now, this signing has the Chiefs with basically no money left, as his cap hit should be $3 million for 2024 and leave KC with just under $500,000 in cap space until additional moves are made. And they could do a few different things to create cap space. One example would be extending Justin Reid. That would free up several million. Releasing Charles Omenihu could save roughly $7 million. Not sure that they do that. Just a couple of options there. They could also restructure Joe Thuney and or Patrick Mahomes' contracts. The Mahomes restructure is coming soon. Don't worry. It's just a matter of when and how much. With that being being said, for whatever reason, with the Chris Jones announcement not coming before Tranquill's, I'm bracing myself for the possibility, I don't know how high of a percentage this is, that a deal does not get done with Chris Jones by this weekend, which means he could sadly be testing the market next week. A potential positive here is Chris Jones did share a tweet yesterday on Twitter/X that simply said, KC ... along with a picture of Andy Reid tackling him after the Super Bowl win. And if you actually clicked on the photo, you could see it was a screenshot that revealed he'd been on a phone call with somebody for an hour by that point. Well, some took this as a very positive sign, like, hey, look, Chris Jones is confirming he's about to get a deal done and is probably even on the phone with his agents and the Chiefs right now. However, it's worth noting that Chris tweeted stuff like this all last offseason long, and no deal got done. Andy Reid was asked about the Chris Jones situation yesterday on the Rich Eisen Show, and his answer was about the same as it always is in situations like this.
Yeah, well, probably not a whole lot. I mean, we would love to have him back. Brett Veach and his gang are working through that, and we've had great communication. So we'll just see. We'll see where it goes from here.
Rich Eisen then told Andy about Chris's tweet with that photo on it, asking him if this could mean there's more to come for Chris Jones and KC, i.e. a deal is getting done soon, and here was Andy's response.
Meaning that more to come?
Well, I'm hoping. Right? I can't give you anything because I don't have a whole lot. I'm doing all these media things, so maybe something's going better than I think it is.
Well, hopefully that is indeed the case. A deal is getting done very soon. But I would be foolish to not consider the possibility of a scenario happening that could upset a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom, because I feel like we've been here before. I was like 90% confident an extension was going to get done with Tyreek Hill, and then boom, he was then traded to the Dolphins. We all know that worked out pretty well, all things considered, but it was quite the shock initially. I was then pretty confident last offseason that Chris Jones and KC would get an extension done as well. Then nothing ever materialized during his very long holdout. Therefore, while I still feel confident a deal should get done, the back of my mind is bracing for a worst case scenario of both L'Jarius Sneed being traded for picks and Chris Jones at least being able to test the market. The reason why he could test the market is twofold. First, as of right now, the Chiefs need money for a Chris Jones deal to even happen. Sneed is on the books for $19.8 million until traded, so unless he's traded within the next few days or two, that timeline conflicts with Dianna Russini's report from yesterday I shared earlier, the Chiefs would have to do something else to free up cap space like the moves I mentioned prior. That part isn't too difficult though, and could happen within the next couple of days, because again, the Chiefs have around $500,000 in cap space, but only need around $8 to $9 million available to get a deal done with Chris Jones in theory. However, there's also the possibility both sides are still far enough off in negotiations that KC is basically forced to let him test the market to see if he can even get close to that asking price. The reason why I say that is former sports agent Joel Corey of CBS Sports had this to say today about Chris Jones's target price with his next contract. Quote, Jones has repeatedly said he wants to spend his entire career with the Chiefs. He then says some sort of sizable hometown discount to accomplish this goal would be a major shock. He should ultimately join Nick Bosa and Aaron Donald as the only defensive players in the $30 million per year club, whether it's with a new team in free agency or by staying in Kansas City. So he says, hey, Chris Jones is worth $30+ million per year, and he should not take any sort of hometown discount to get what he truly deserves. And that's kind of the reason I'm nervous if he is allowed to test the market, because some team is probably going to offer him a bunch of money, well-deserved, but still, it's a scary thought. And while Joel says the target or asking prices in his article for these players may be on the high side and not actually what the deals end up being, he has Chris Jones's deal at $132.5 million over 4 years, which is $33.125 million per year and $90 million in guarantees. Well, that is certainly a lot of money. I'm not sure if the Chiefs get that high of an average per year, $33.125 million. So the question is, can they get close enough, at least in the ballpark or the range of what Chris Jones and his agents actually want? If they aren't able to get close enough, that's why Chris Jones could very well test the market here in a few days, which would be way less than ideal if this happens and Sneed ends up getting traded. That's both of your stars on defense, L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones, gone in the same offseason. Please, no. And right before I exported this video, I saw Ian Rappaport appeared on the Pat McAfee show and was asked about the Chris Jones deal. Well, he said a deal is not yet done, and he's actually not sure if it's going to get done before the new league year starts.
I do not get the sense the deal is done. I get the sense the communication between Chris Jones and the Cats Bros, his agents, and the Chiefs is positive and productive. Will that lead to a deal before free agency? I don't know. Sometimes guys like to see what's out there, but it does seem a deal is at least possible or within reach.
Well, that's what I was fearing when I was making this video, so don't love to hear that. He also mentioned that the Chiefs are going to aim to get as close to Aaron Donald money as possible, but he's not sure if they will get up to that $30 million mark.
I think the Chiefs are going to pay that. And, are they going to get to 30? I don't know if they're going to get to 30.
And if the Chiefs can't get to that $30 million per year mark, Chris Jones, if he does test the waters, is probably going to get offered even more than that. So that's going to be up to Chris Jones. Is he going to settle for what the Chiefs offer him or go chase a bag elsewhere and make millions more? All we can really do right now is sit back and hope for the best over the next few days as our eyes remain glued to social media for any moves the Chiefs end up making. But with all that being said, what are your current thoughts on this? If you were Brett Veach, would you just write Chris Jones a blank check? Like, hey man, I know you're about to turn 30. It's fine. You're still that guy. Take whatever you need. Or if his demands are too high, would you let him test the waters of free agency to see what offers he gets and then possibly look at a contingency plan? And if that's the case, how confident would you be that Chris Jones stays a Chief after fielding offers from other teams? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Please sign Chris Jones. How about those?